Welcome to the crochet. Today I will be making a mudkip. The materials we will need include, of course, the yarn. I will be using the dark blue, light blue and orange yarn. I will also be using a 2mm crochet hook, and as with any other project, you will need stitch markers and embroidery needle. We will be breaking down the mudkip into basic shapes to create. So first, for the head, it is somewhat a spherical shape, but the width is larger than the height. Since the height is smaller, the number of rows in the midsection should be less than the increased rows. I ended up with 12 increased rows and 7 single crochet rounds for the midsection for the top half of the head, and 12 increased rounds and 1 single crochet round for the midsection for the lower half of the head. Take note that I used dark blue for the top half and light blue for the bottom half as well. Since mudkip looks cuter with an open mouth, I will make the mouth cavity as well with an elongated hemisphere like this, and make another hemisphere to flatten and function as the tongue. I will sew the tongue onto the insides of the mouth cavity over here and crochet the top of the head and bottom of the head separately. Then sewing the mouth cavity in between the top and bottom half of the head to create the mouth. So to create the elongated hemisphere for the mouth cavity, I started with a chain of 50 by estimating the proportions to the face, then worked in rounds by interweaving decreased rounds and single crochet rounds to get a gentle sloping elongated hemisphere. I didn't do the interweaving for the tongue and started immediately with a magic ring to create the nice round shape with 7 increased rounds and 2 rows of single crochet rounds to finish off. I used slip stitches all around to attach the mouth cavity to the top and bottom half of the head, and it will look something like this. For the star cheek, the base of the cheek is a 2D circle connected to 3 pointed edges where the middle prong is slightly longer. I created the 2D circle and the 3 sections separately, then sewed them on together in the end, stuffing the points to ensure that they can stand. So after eyeballing the proportions while crocheting, I ended up with creating the base of the cheek with 7 increased rounds, and for the 3 prongs, to reduce the sewing, I have used a chain of 24 stitches, that increased to 30 stitches and split it into 3 sections for 10 stitches each for each prong. For each prong, I did decrease 2 stitches per round until 6 stitches and interweave decreased rounds with single crochet rounds to create the elongated sharpness of the prongs. I also interweave more single crochet rounds in between the decreased rounds to create the longer middle prong. The star cheek ended up looking something like this. For the head fin, it was simply a flattened elongated hemisphere that was split into 3 sections. To get the look of an aging in between the 3 sections, I work in rounds straight up, starting with a chain of 36 and increasing to 42 with 4 rows of single crochet. Then I split this section into 3 and continue working in rounds for each of the sections for 7 rounds for the 2 on the sides and 10 rounds for the 1 in the center, and ended off with the decreased rounds facing the sides to create the sloping look for the flattened cylinders, and sewed the 3 sections together, taking only the outer loops to retain the look of the 3 separate sections. For the body, the shape is simply another elongated hemisphere but with a slightly gentler slope while decreasing. So I achieved this by interweaving decreased rounds with single crochet rounds. I worked from the bottom of the body upwards and sewed the head to the body afterwards. For the belly of the mudkip, however, it is light blue while the body is dark blue, so I did color change while working in the round to maintain a nice slope of the belly outline. The proportions I arrived at for the body in the end was to increase to 60 stitches by increasing 6 each time, and decrease to 36 stitches to attach to the head, interweaving single crochet rounds in between the decreased rounds. I pinned the head to the body and sewed the head to the body by taking the post of the single crochet stitches on each side. Using this method, you will be able to get a nice stitching all around. For the front limbs, I wanted to have a seamless attachment to the body without the legs sticking out weirdly, so I decided that the best way to approach this was to work in rounds from bottom up to create a cylinder at the bottom, and work in rows for the half of the circle on one side for attachment to the body. So I started with a magic circle and did 2 increased rounds to get the diameter I wanted, then worked in single crochet rounds until I got the length of the limb I wanted. After I was happy with the length of the front limb, I began working in rows for 9 stitches of the 18 upwards to create the attachment flap, but I didn't want to have the wrong side of the row showing. So I decided to do slip stitches whenever I am at the wrong side and do single crochet when I am at the right side. So it ended up looking something like this. I was very happy with how it turned out, so I repeated the process to get the right limb, pinned it in place, and it looked something like this. For the hind legs, I didn't want to be boring and make it the same way as the front limbs, and hind legs usually have a rump like a drumstick, so that was the shape I was going for. To create this shape, I created a 2D circle for the rump end, and used only 9 stitches at the last row of the 2D circle and chained another 9 stitches to match the diameter of the front limb. So with this, I worked the rest downwards in rounds to create a cylinder. So as usual, I started off with a magic ring and did increased rounds until I was happy with the proportions to the body, which ended up with a total of 6 increased rounds. Then I created the chains and worked in rounds of the single crochet until I got the length that I wanted. So fast forwarding the boring parts, I ended up with 2 great looking hind legs that look something like this. Now it's time to make the tail fin, and we are almost at the end. So for the tail fin, I started with a chain of 18 stitches to work from bottom up. I increased to 36 stitches and continued doing single crochet rounds until the length of the tail I wanted, and did sharp decrease rounds by decreasing 12 stitches for each round to create the plateau at the top. Then to create the 3 lines, I decided to embroider this on the tail fin after I was done crocheting. So I didn't take the process of making this because I was too excited, but the end product looked something like this. I pinned it down and sewed it, and the sewn tail looks something like this. So for the very last step, we got to give our Mudkip some eyes. So the eye whites are basically just a small 2D circle, so I used 6 single crochet in a magic ring and fasten off. And for the black border around, there is a longer black portion at the bottom, so I used slip stitches all around the top half, and I used double crochet stitches at the bottom half to create the long eyes. After I sewn it down, the eyes look something like this. So that's all the components that you need to make Mudkip, and here is the final product. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this video useful for developing your own patterns as well. Like and subscribe for more crochet videos. Bye!